All right. Hi again, everybody. It is Transfer Day here for us. As you can see, it's January 1st, 2023 here in game. And I wanted to do a really quick video to show you what I do after I make my transfers here in hardcore mode. So in case you want to look at the craziness that has gone on here, we have like way too many players in. I mean, I'm not even going to start with this. There's just way too much. And we still have a whole bunch of transfer budget remaining. As you can see, we're supposed to spend the entire transfer budget. And I mean, that's just not going to happen. All right. We can't find players there to spend the original transfer budget, and they are disappointed because we can't do that, because we can't find players who are that expensive who actually want to come play in the third tier of the Chinese league. However, we were able to find a number of good players. Now, what I wanted to show here is sort of the way that I wind up using the squad planner in so-called hardcore mode. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit challenging here because, as you can see, there are no star ratings at all. It's not possible for me to just look at this and be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to make sure this guy's in front and this guy's behind and so on based on their star ratings or based on what their potential is. I have to sort of be able to read between the lines. I mean, as you can see here, there's no star ratings at all. There's nothing to distinguish, say, like George Hall from Paul Wade from Lee Jin-young, or our new striker Delphi from Ravaglia Para. What you have to do is you have to look a little bit closer and see, okay, who's doing what and where are they and what exactly is going on. Let's see if I can get this reset here really quick. Of course I can't. This is what I'm looking for. And so basically what I've done here is I've worked through these players and I can see them sort of popping back up. What I've done here is I've gone to ask assistant for current position. I don't want him to give me his opinion for everything because I kind of went nuts on the goalkeepers. We have like 50 or 60 different Chinese goalkeepers on the squad right now. Yeah, we're going to do a lot of loans. I'm probably going to spend quite a bit of time this afternoon trying to loan people out and probably will not be successful. So this will be a lot of fun to watch. I won't let you see that part. That's a little bit boring. There are some guys that we brought in that I know already, right? So Camille Jabara, for example, who you're going to know pretty soon. I know because I've looked at this before that he wants to be a right winger. So since we're looking at the strikers right now, we're not going to look at him. We'll just take him off. See, the thing that has happened here is when I ask for the assistant manager's opinion, he's given me this list of who he thinks the best players are in the team. And then I can kind of go through this and say, okay, Kim Yong-il is already on the team, but you see we have him playing on the right side. I know that he's playing underneath really Jabara right now. Kim Yong-il, I've talked about him before. I'm not so keen on him with his dislike of big matches. He hasn't been injured for us yet, but I'm still waiting for that ball to drop. And he's actually not on the squad right now because he is off playing in internationals. Now, some of these players you'll recognize, like Gao Yang. I haven't been very impressed with Gao Yang and how he's done in the beginning part of the season. Only 5 goals in 7 appearances, 3 man of the matches, which is okay, and 6 assist rating. But unfortunately, I do not think that he's quite good enough for this squad, as you can see by the coach report, which shows that, I mean, good Super League player, yeah, is okay. Unlikely to improve, which is part of the problem. He is going to wind up behind a bunch of guys who are older and who are better. Max McMillan, we've had for a while on our under-21, so I just take him off. Here's Huang Bowen, who I've talked about a lot in these videos. Huang Bowen, of course, is very unhappy with me. He scored a lot of goals, but he hasn't really been developing the way that we want him to. So we look here at his progress, and of course it shows he has been developing quite a bit, but you can see this is leveling off as he's become more and more upset, and he's just not training anymore. We're going to try to bin him off, and as you can see, we have him here as the surplus to requirements, and nobody wants him. Kim Kook-jin, who I started a lot more beforehand, has shown up as also disliking big matches. He is a consistent player, which works for us at our level, but again, the problem is what is he going to do later on? Leading first division player is good maybe for next year, but what are we going to do the year after? So we're going to see what we can do with him, and Song Wen-jae is not really part of the question. And so basically that's what I've done here with the squad planner at every single one of these levels. I've been looking through and saying, you know, like, okay, so who do they say our best player is out of all the players that we've signed on, and who's probably the next person? And then comes the big question, which is kind of unique to this particular save, which is how do we balance this so that we don't have more than 20 foreign players? How do we balance this so that we have as much as possible Chinese players at every one of these positions if we can, just in case it's needed? And how do we balance sort of some of these guys I brought on because they were older and they have great personalities to try to round out the professionalism and personalities in the squad? How do we balance them with everything else that's going on? So as you play through your saves, as you're trying to figure out, how to do this, if you want to be crazy like me and do it without stars and without player attributes, what you should look into is how can we set this up so that, we get good advice from the assistant manager, and then we eventually know all of the players, what they're good at, what they're bad at, and we make decisions that way. Here's an example. Calvo, who has featured in these videos before, is on our under 21 squad. Thankfully, he is under 21, so he can play. The reason why is quite simply because he is not good enough to be on this list. He's not going to get any game time. I've mentioned this before. You might not have heard it, but at least for us, knowing what's coming up, we have mostly one match every single week, right? We don't have this 2 matches in a week thing that we had going on for the first part of the season. And so because of that, we don't necessarily need to have for these 2 positions like more than 4 guys. 5 guys is probably way too much. Wang Tong, who we just signed, probably won't get much game time. Anyway, that's the sort of thing that you look at. Some of this is, of course, going to be really obvious for you because this is how Football Manager is played. Some of it, though, might not be quite so obvious, right? The fact that we don't necessarily have star ratings here doesn't mean that we cannot look and see who is better than whom. And as always, if you want to take a closer look, you can look at this. So Liu Xiaoziyang, according to the course report, is a leading first division player. He's probably more Super League standard player. We bought him from Bayern Munich. And he's going to wind up better than Chen Wei, who was the other answer that we bought at goal, who is showing as having the potential to be a leading first division player. I mean, you just look into this and you can think, okay, well, so this guy probably has 5-star potential, and this guy probably has maybe 3.5, 4-star potential. And then Dong Chunyu, who we have sort of as like an emergency backup, is never going to improve and is sort of good enough for this level. He's a 3-star player, right? And then in the end, we have this guy, Zhang Lia, so that the players can no longer complain about not having depth in goal, who's a perfectionist, but he just doesn't have, the quality to play. That gives you an idea of kind of what's going on. You can do all of this straight from the squad planner. You don't have to dig too far in at all. So this gives you sort of a idea of what to expect here coming up in the future. I'm not sure why he can't play for more than 2 teams in one season. Okay, so we may have to make a change here at right back. But so it is. So you look at stuff like that and you're like, okay, well, we're not going to register this guy. We'll have to register somebody else and we'll figure all this other stuff out. That's the way that it works. So as you go forward and prosper with your various Football Manager projects, this is the way at least that I use the squad planner. I think that it's a lot nicer without seeing the star ratings. The screen's maybe not so useful, but honestly, I think that it's a lot easier to use the squad planner in this way because you're trusting your coaches and you're not trusting some arbitrary number of stars or some number that doesn't mean anything out of context. Anyway, have a good day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.